It's all good. All right. Are we on time? We'll start early. How's that sound? Yeah? All right, let's do that. Thanks for coming. It's called Who Needs a Publisher? Go from fan to creator on your own terms. That's us. Let's do that, right? Real quick, since we have an extra minute. Charlie, about 4 years ago, when I was first trying to figure out this whole comics thing, at this exact convention, not this day, but 4 years ago, I was looking into pitching my story and, hopefully getting an okay or a thumbs up from a publisher and getting it made. I ran into this guy, Charlie, for a second time. And he's like, you should go to this self-publishing panel. It was here. Full circle. How cool is that? And after that panel, I came back so empowered to make my own book my own way. Because Charlie was like, you should do this because you get to own it all and make your own money. It's going to be a little bit more work. But here I am 4 years later with the guy on the panel at the convention that convinced me to do it. So thanks, Charlie.
And I'm sorry to all of you. I guess that now his work is out there.
I'm sorry. You have to read it. It's only 4 words. 1 word per book. All right, let's.
But seriously, though, that's kind of impressive. That's sort of thing that what we're doing here can impact other people and sort of help them move forward.
And that's why, Jesse asked me this on a podcast, is why do I like doing panels? It's because if I can empower someone else to feel as empowered as I felt, it's cool. It's worth it. You know what I mean? Well, let's do some quick introductions. Start with Ray at the very end of there. Ray Anthony, not Ray Anthony dash.
That's right.
The dash is between the Ray and Anthony.
The dash is a word itself.
That's right, really?
The active space.
Thank you. It is an active space.
Well, if it's double dash, then it's written by AI. Ray Anthony Height is a freelance illustrator and creator that has worked for Marvel, DC, Viz, Lion Forge, Image, and more. Ray is also the founder of Studio Skye-Tiger and creator of Midnight Tiger, the story of Gavin Shaw, a teenager who becomes the protector of his city after the so-called superheroes turn their backs on it. Ray brings a dynamic, seasoned eye to every page. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you. And I can go home now because he said everything about me and I can walk right out.
And coming down the line this way, we've got Charlie. He does not go by Charles. I don't know why.
That's okay.
Charlie Stickney is a publisher and CEO of White Ash Comics. Charlie is a writer-producer residing in California who's been working in various fields of the entertainment industry, including animation, film, television, and comic books, for over 20 years. Charlie's comic writing credits include White Ash, Galarian, and The Game. And you can see him, actually we can see Ray at C9 at Artist Alley, and we can see Charlie at I11 at Artist Alley. And then next to me, we've got, I call her Jessie because we're friends, but she goes by Jessica if you're not friends.
We're enemies, it's a whole other story.
It's Miss Mason to you. So Miss Mason is a speculative fiction author, filmmaker, and comic creator. She's a writer and the award-winning graphic novel series. Mary Shelley's School for Monsters and Plastic Girl is her eco-punk YA novel series set in a climate apocalypse. Her short comics have been featured in anthologies such as Cthulhu is Hard to Spell and Nightmare Theater. She is an IBPA Ben Franklin Gold Award winner.
Sorry, that's terrible.
Lots of syllables.
So they named it. I didn't do it.
Apparently I can read. Forward Indies Award nominee and a Nebula Award finalist. I can't read. Her sci-fi speculative short stories have been published by Terraform, and she is the founder of Wicked Tree Press. Well,
Good. Well, I feel like I wrote that for you.
Yeah. And then finally, myself, I'm Art. I started as an animator for Futurama and The Simpsons, and over the last 2 decades, I've since moved on to tell other brands' stories as an associate creative director in advertising, and as a writer, producer, director for video and film. I've written and published the geopolitical thriller California Inc. and the sci-fi anthology Systemic, and we are now live, plug, with West Side on Kickstarter, which has 5 days left, so if you want to take a look, I'll wait. No. And we're working on a new horror anthology called Disrupted Tales. This is all done through my own studio now called Studio Dope Up. All right. With that, let me just go down the line. We'll start with Jessica. How did you get started in the comics profession?
Well, I don't even know anymore, but I do know that, yeah, I do remember. Okay. So I did screenwriting when I first moved out to Los Angeles, and I have a writing partner named Kim Pierce, now Kim O'Malley. And our first script was called Deep Thirst, and it was a camping horror movie, kind of like Thelma and Louise meets Tremors is how we pitched it. And so we got our agent on that, and we did all the pitching about that. And it never got made because we went out with it during the Saw, when Saw first got popular. That's how old I am, guys. Saw times, the first one. And the beginning. And, you know, we had all these great meetings and we did stuff with it, but we couldn't get that movie made. And so we've always just loved that script. Like, we'll just come back to it. And so she said, over drinks one day, we should make this into a comic. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And then I went to a Comic-Con and I never came back. I mean, that is how I got into comics. And then I went like just to try to learn comics, become self-taught. So I met people like Charlie, Ray, Art, just along the way, and learned from them and did my own kind of, I wouldn't call it a mini master's class and master's degree in how to make comics. And I'm still in that school. That I'm the Venus professor. Yeah, so that is how it happened. And excitingly enough, Kim and we haven't made that movie into a comic, but I'm going to give a little, if it's okay. We are going to do a short with an arts anthology, and it is part of that comic. So full circle, yeah. So I didn't get into all what I was doing, but that is how we got into it.
How about you, Charlie?
Well, in high school, I entirely planned on going into comics profession. And then I got to college, and film all of a sudden sort of came out of nowhere. So I was a double major in film and studio art, but I still wanted to maybe do comics, and I went and I interned at Marvel when I was in college. And it was really like one of those things, like that sliding doors moment. Like, what's going to happen after I graduate? Am I going to move to New York, where I wanted to be a writer inker? Like, that was sort of my thought. Or am I going to move to LA? And I got a job offer in LA, so I went out to LA. I ended up working in animation, working in feature film. But one of the things about Hollywood, and the saddest thing about Hollywood, is it's such a risk-based industry where they don't want to take risks on things. And so as I was going along in my career, I had all these great stories that I wanted to tell, and I'd be taking them out, and go out and meet with like 60 different production companies, and they're all like, "This is fabulous. If it was based on something we'd love to make." And
if we have the budget.
Yeah, and it's kind of became soul crushing, because as a writer, what you want to do is you want to share your stories, and you want to get them out there, and deep inside they're good stories. And so at some point I was listening to that, and it just kept coming back to me. I was like, why am I not doing the other thing that I wanted to do, which was the comics? And so I said, let me try a comic. And I was talking to my wife, and we decided how much money I could invest in it. And we started with the first issue of White Ash, and it took off, and we started having fans. And all of a sudden I realized, oh my goodness, now I can make all the stories I want to make. I can find fans with them, and I can make so much less money. But it was wonderful. And so like going forward, it's been so gratifying for me to sort of transition from film into comics and be able to find an audience and continue to grow that for the things that I want to write and want to make. And it's also the validation that, yes, I was right. They should have made those stories, but that's another story. So.
How about you, Ray? I mean, you got a couple beginnings. You got the big names, and then now doing studio types like Skye-Tiger. I mean,
I've had damn near every job in comics, but I wanted to be an animator. I ended up doing storyboards for Guardians of the Galaxy eventually, but when I started, I was doing comics and making my own tabletop games at 16 with a group of friends. And then they're like, well, we should do a comic. And I was like, okay. We ended up doing a comic. By the time we published it, I was like 19 years old and totally independent. And it sold out. And I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I think I can make this happen. Like, we were doing things like Zipatone and all that kind of stuff. It was really experimental, doing crazy stuff. Didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we got it done. And then I had this thing where I was like, I want to get into Marvel. Spider-Man was my favorite character. And I was like, I even, draw Howard the Duck. And so I get there, and my first job is Spider-Man, which is great. And it was a Spider-Man Iron Man story, yes. And it ended up being with a friend of mine, Kevin Greavius, who is the creator of the Underworld series. And that's all story for another time, but I didn't know how famous Kevin was. He was just this dude with a deep voice. But then I worked for Marvel, but I always did my own thing. I never stopped doing my own thing. And it's funny, because Jessica's going down the list, and I'm like, we've been doing the same stuff. Cthulhu, Nightmare Theater. Yeah, we've been in the same books.
I know.
It's crazy.
It is really weird. And then we're now on this panel.
Yeah, we're now on this panel, but
What's
I haven't
next?
been on the
What are we doing
podcast.
next? Oh, you're going to be on the podcast. I was going to invite you after that.
Thank you.
I haven't launched the podcast, so you're not missing it.
Okay.
Convenient, Jessica.
I know.
Ba-dum.
I grew up in Hollywood.
Exactly. It's like you got the timing right for
Yeah.
podcast. Here it is. It's not here yet. But yeah, simply, I wanted to do my own work. I put out my own book, Midnight Tiger, through a company that shall not be named, and they were holding back sort of the sales, because I would not get the reports I was supposed to get. But somehow people kept bringing me copies of the sign. Suspicious. So, but they still wanted me to do more comics. I wasn't seeing any money. I thought it was a flop, and I said, well, let's cancel it. They wouldn't let me cancel it, so I literally stopped working on it. I just concentrated on the Marvel work. And so, but it was getting fans. So it was like, well, after the 100th time, well, you should finish Midnight Tiger. And I was like, okay, I'll go back to that. So now I have this Marvel, fan base, and then I have the Midnight Tiger fan base. But I own that. Right? And so, yeah. And that's what brought me there. I went from being contracted to DC with my studio Skye-Tiger company, which I formed, to just do production on other people's comics. And we did stuff like, with the Milestone, the Aquaman 2 tie-in. We did a Black Manta story. We did a dynamic duo that recently was in Absolute Power DC Comics with a Signal and James Fox Batman. And then I was like, it's time. It's time to just jump the broom. And again, our Charlie connection. Charlie and I have been friends for several years. And so I've been watching him do this. And I would say, man, I want to do what you do. And he's like, no. But I really did. And I knew that was the way to go. And so he's the reason why, instead of production, I decided to go into self-publishing, go back into self-publishing. And own my own company. Thanks, Charlie.
Again, I am sorry.
That's it. That's my story.
Well, I got a couple more quick questions for our panel, but I just want to double check. Does anybody have any questions they might be asking later? I'm going to leave a nice big block open, so start thinking of them now. If you have any, just raise your hand. I can kind of get an idea. Okay, got a few. Perfect. All right, let's start with Jessica. So you have a foot in the world of screenwriting and film production. What skills have helped you in that world of making comics?
Well, for screenwriting, I think a lot of the skills that for writing a script and writing a comic are very similar. There's a lot of things that are very different. I do think that made it a lot easier for me to start writing comics, but it also, caused some issues. I think with filmmaking or I come from development as well, just working collaboratively with people. I have a learned ability to do that through working on indie films, working in at big companies with creative executives and development people and directors, and as a screenwriter having to take people's notes and do all that. So you can bring all of the same skill sets over to making comics. Another thing, just from all my jobs in film, it's a very hurry up and wait kind of place, but it is also a very fast-paced place. And so I think just being able to manage all of the hats. So when you're a self-published person, or if you're running your own publishing company, you're never done working. So it's important, I think, to keep that in mind. You're done writing something, you now have to email an artist and talk to them. You got to email the letter, you got to check the design, you got to send out the books, you got the deadlines, and then you have to and you're doing that on several projects. And then you have to also market the book and reach out to bookshops or, depending on if it's a novel or a comic, obviously, you're just constantly never feeling done.
The many hats.
Yeah, the many hats. And I do think film in general makes, especially indie film, when I was, making movies, it just prepares you for that. It's like a boot camp in being every position. And that is something to keep in mind. If you're a very single-minded person who likes to do one job and one job only, self-publishing is going to be very hard because there's a lot of jobs and you have to wear a lot of hats. And I think when you do indie film, you have to wear like every single hat. You might even be the caterer one day. So, you can be anything.
Picking up crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I have to separate my day. So at the beginning half of the day, I like to pretend I'm wearing a green rimmed hat.
Yeah.
I'm in admin mode.
Yes.
So that's the first half of the day is admin. I'm answering emails because that's when everybody needs to get their email. Needs to get their email replied to. That's what I'm doing. Anything to do with bookkeeping, all that stuff. And when that's out of the way, those tasks have been checked off. It feels like I got a bunch of stuff done. So when I'm doing the creative stuff, I don't have that stuff weighing on me. I need to answer that quick email. So the back half of the day is either I'm drawing or I'm writing. Most likely writing. And then going back to a little bit admin, green hat. But yeah, it's the producer role in us shows up really well for self-publishing and just organizing people and stuff. I agree with that.
You're definitely a producer whether you want to be or not. So.
Charlie, traditional readers are accustomed to monthly releases for books. White Ash has 4 titles. Can you talk about frequency of release for your line and for Kickstarter books, and why kind of a longer gap is okay for self-publishers? Again, we're used to monthly, but then you don't do that.
Well, I think there's a couple of things here. First off, I want to also agree that one of the hard things is a lot of us are artists first and foremost, and if you're going to do self-publishing, you also have to have that logistics production side on. Just for instance, I have a book I'm trying to get ready for San Diego Comic-Con, so I know in the back of my mind the deadline I've already negotiated with the printer is June 16th. I have to have the final pages, and then you have to work back when your pre-press is going to be done. When do the pages need to be with your letterer? On that particular issue, I'm working with 9 different artists, so it's like coordinating all of those artists, making sure they're going to hit the deadline, that the pages are coming in, that they're going to go to the letterer, that the proofer is going to be able to look over the book, and it's all going to hit the printer in time for June 16th, which is a month from now. So that's one thing I'm juggling while I have another book in production and another book in production. So you have to be really good at kind of compartmentalizing your day. To take the actual question, I think a lot of this comes down to why are you doing it on your own versus working with a publisher, and there's various different reasons for that. Maybe we'll get into the panel about the different reasons why you want to do it on your own versus working with a publisher. But if you're doing it on your own and you're doing it in your own system, you can write the story that makes sense for what you're doing, for your distribution method. And American comics, the traditional system that you go through your stores, which comes out monthly, is a wonderful thing. But it's also almost an archaic remnant of something that was built 60 years ago, right? And so these monthly issues have to come out that are 20 pages in length. There's a format, and it's based on what artists can produce in that time frame, what writers can crank out, and what a publisher can turn over, what they've sort of figured out they can have their profit revenue based on. And it all comes back to what Marvel and DC do, and every other publisher that's out there has to sort of react to that and say, well, if Marvel is doing this, this is the majority of the stuff that's on the shelves, and DC is doing that. So these are the price points that we have to work with, and to be able to hit these price points, we have to be in these page count ranges. And so all of it comes back down to what this gigantic corporation is doing to put out a monthly book. So if you are not part of that gigantic corporation, then what you need to think about is what best serves my story, right? And so if your story is best served by coming out, it's going to be hard for you to do a monthly 20-page book anyway, just because that's a lot of time. You need the money, you need the capital coming in. if you're doing things through Kickstarter, there's a time period where you have it as a pre-sales market where you're raising revenue that you can then put back into the book, but it sort of changes the schedule, the economics, and all of that. And so when that's all different, you have to think about what best serves the story that you're trying to tell. For me personally, it's slightly longer issues because also if you're only coming out 4 times a year with an issue, I want to give people something that's a little bit more substantial. Like when you think of manga that's coming out, like those like 1 volume or 2 volumes a year, but they're big, thick chunks, right? And so like if you're kind of more like that model, then maybe you want to give something a little bit more substantial to sort of tide people over. But mostly I just write to what the story needs. And and I think that speaks to the people who read my stories because they feel like they're getting something full when they pick up each issue. Now I will say that publisher Charlie really hates writer Charlie. Because like publisher Charlie has budgeted a certain amount of money for this book that's coming out, which was supposed to be 72 pages for this chunk, but it's going to be 90 pages. And so now publisher Charlie needs to come up with the other 18 pages worth of lettering and coloring and production costs, and that's going to be a lot of money. So he's really unhappy, but writer Charlie's really happy, and I think the fans are going to be really happy because they also pre-ordered a book that was 72 pages, and they're going to get something that's 90 pages, and no one really hates getting more for their money.
Right.
And it's going to be a better story. So so those are the kind of things that I think of as a writer. I want to just tell the story that makes me happy, and if it makes me happy, the people who appreciate what I do are hopefully going to be happy too. So that's
Oh no, I was like, yeah. I mean, Charlie and I talked about this. So I did the same thing because publisher Ray doesn't like writer Ray, and artist Ray doesn't like writer Ray. Because I write and draw my own book, and I went from 30 pages of the main story to 45 pages, 15 more pages, and the budget and the printing and all these different things. Everything that Charlie just went through is exactly, the fans are gonna love it. I just released an update. They were like, oh my God, because I showed them the prequel of what I did. And there's part of the story, which I'm very proud of. And they love that, and that's great, but it's gonna cost me more money. And it's gonna cost the artist, myself, more time to do it. But I know for a fact that I need those 15 days. I need it for the story. So it's one of those things where as a publisher, and my thought was this, talking about hats, like Jessica was talking about hats, I was already doing these things to a certain degree at Marvel. Like I would fix, so Marvel will hire novelists who have never written a comic book script. Hey Ray, do you think that you can rewrite this in the art, essentially? Like, can you make sense of this? And so I would rewrite it. I would read it, I would rewrite it, and then, put it out, do the layout. Does this work? Oh man, this is brilliant. I can make sense now. And I was like, I get what, like, I read a lot and I get what the writers are trying to, especially novelists, because they have to be verbose. There's no pictures. So the descriptions are there. But when they write it, it's in the same way. So it doesn't work for a comic book script. And so that's what I ended up doing. So it's that skill set, right? And then they're like, hey, the inker conked out. Can you ink the pencil pages you just turned in 2 weeks ago? And I'm like, okay, I'll do this. But we're not going to give you more time. So, and it's funny. And then we're going to say, hey, you were late. Hey, you gave me more work. So this is how that usually plays out. And I had already done stuff. I had a small company before. I did a Kickstarter, the first Skye-Tiger Kickstarter, back when it was the Wild Wild West, and it was successful. I already did that stuff before. I even had a production company where I worked with Cartoon Network and Vids, and we produced Monsuno and Redikai, and we did books with it. So I've done it, and after again talking to Charlie and other people who were already publishing, essentially it's like, dude, you've already done this. You just do it for yourself. And here's the lesson: how many of you, show of hands, have seen X-Men 97? Awesome. So, how cool was that Bastion design where it's like techno-organic, right? I designed it. I didn't see it down there. And I didn't get a credit. If I owned it, I would. Hence, Studio Skye-Tiger Comics. So,
and this is the other thing about, like when you're putting in those extra pages, at the end of the day, it's something that you own. So even though publisher Charlie's unhappy right now, he can later have a book that's 90 pages long that he can sell in perpetuity for like $20 or whatever it's going to be, because it's a bigger book. So he can make more money on it later on down the road. Right now, he's not happy, but as a publisher, like that's the thing that you have to remember. Like there's real value in your library. So the bigger that your library gets, the longer that your books are, the more content that's there, the more money that you're able to monetize over time. So it might cost you more upfront, but in the long run, you're making your money back. You have to sort of think about your business plan and your business model. And that's why Marvel and DC are multi-billion-dollar companies. It's not because of the new issue that came out, unless it's Absolute Batman, and that's the reason. But aside from that, it's the library that over time, it's the stories that people, that they keep republished. Like most people who are into comics at some point have read The Killing Joke, right? And DC has just printed that ad nauseum again and again and again. And so it's like, it's things that you can print forever, that you can keep monetizing, that people love. Like I'm going into like the first White Ash trade on my own. I did like a 1,500 print run of a hardcover. We sold out of that years ago. Then I was at Scout Comics and we did another 6,000 copies of that. That has sold. I'm now going through another, like I have a new hardcover that's going to be coming out. So there'll be another 2,000 copies of that. And for me at this point, it's just paying the print costs because the art was long paid for a long time ago. And then I can make revenue off it. And also my artist partner, who's the other part, can make revenue off things too. So.
They covered it.
Right.
I mean, I agree with that. That's like my.
And I was gonna say, show of hands, does anybody have any idea how much it costs to make one comic?
Say 24 pages, right? 24 pages?
24 pages, 24 pages. What do you think? How much is that? 5. What do you think?
At least 2,000.
Okay. On average, minimum, Marvel and DC, it takes them $10,000 to make a single comic. And that's minimum. That's not a superstar artist or writer.
So with that, think about those of us who are indie publishers. We're paying about that much per book just to get the work done. And that's why we go on Kickstarter to get just the printing done. So sometimes you see a $3,000 goal. The goal usually is actually more than that.
Yeah.
Because we actually want to just hit the goal so we get partially funded so we can pay for printing. And at the very least, we're all broken even. Well, actually, we're not broken even. I pay my artist. But we have the books, and we're trying to make the money back off the books. And then
That's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Most of it, the cost you see, I mean, like, Charlie, you're in one of the best positions now. It's been 8 years?
This is 9, or 10 years next year.
Charlie's built his entire platform, like his books do well, but he didn't start there. So he has a fan base that's actually, you gotta grow this. When you're starting out, I assume all of you guys want to start out, you gotta strip it to the bare bone. Most of us are paying for things up front. Even though I have a company, I'm mostly, since I do the art and the writing, I pay for other things. However, now it's different. Like I have to pay people to do this.
don't forget lettering.
Yeah, and you think it's cheap, but $10, $15 adds up on a 20 to 75 page book real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I want to leave room for questions, but one quick question for each of you, real quick. Can you give us one must-have for self-publishers? And I'll give you an example. In my case is make sure your files are clean. And by that I mean your pre-press files, go to the printer clean. If that means you don't know what you're doing, go find a designer who can do it for you. If the book comes back bad and it's because of your file, that's on you and it's going to cost you money. If it's on them, you could say it wasn't my file. So it costs you a little bit more up front, but at least your files are clean. Go spend a little bit of money and get it done right. What would you say?
Contracts.
Ooh, yes, contracts.
Yeah, I've even going into I think it's very easy to start a process with someone you're excited about a project. Maybe you're friends, maybe you already know each other, maybe you've done things in the past. Just put it in writing, even if it's not super, like, you know, you can find a lot of different templates. There are legal resources that you can reach into. It's like, just get that contract, some version of something on paper that you both signed, so that you know what you're doing. Because so often you are not thinking exactly the same about the business end of it. You know, you're not even thinking about that. Because I'm a creative person, so I just get excited and I get into it. I'm like, oh, we haven't done a contract. We need to set up a contract, even if it's a small contract. Yeah.
I mean, in comics, it's cool because, you know, if you're in a corporate job, you can't pick your coworkers, you end up working with people you don't want to work with. With comics, you get to pick your coworkers.
Mhm.
But because we're friends, let's not forget the important part, which is the logistics of the contract. Because, like you said, actually, Jessica and I had a contract recently, and she had me add a line item, which I didn't think of, and I added it to the rest of my other contract. So it was collaboration at that point. So that was cool. You know, we're always learning all the time. So, Charlie, any must-haves for you?
Well, I'll also piggyback
Yeah.
off that with the contracts. Another reason why it's really important is if you look at anything else. Because I've had a lot of different conversations with larger publishing entities that might want to do business with me beyond what I'm doing right now. And one of the conversations with them is like, do you have contracts? Because the last thing a big company wants to come in is when there's an unclear chain of title. So they want to make sure that every single asset that you have, you can print, you can sort of say to them, here's the paperwork that says I own every part of it. So contracts are really important. And I would piggyback on top of that business plan. To figure out how you're going to make money so you don't get in over your head. Because like one of the reasons why I started out self-publishing was at first I thought I was just going to go be a writer. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll get my first book picked up by Image. Like that was like the thought in my head. And back then you could actually see the numbers that comics were doing. And so I was looking at what Image titles were doing for number 1, for number 2, for number 3, from someone who like me at that time had no name in comics whatsoever. And I was like, oh, so I'm not going to be able to afford to do my series past 4 issues. And then if I do 5 issues, I'm going to be in the red and start owing Image money. I'm like, that's not a business model that I can sort of deal with. So I figured out, okay, what do I need to do for my books to be able to afford to do this? Like, how much can I afford to invest? Where do I need to start seeing the break even? What's my print run going to be on the first issue so I have more units to sell going forward? And so like with White Ash, the business plan was always by issue 3, I needed to start making some money. Otherwise, my wife and I were going to have some conversation about what I was doing with our assets. And that's kind of just what happened. With the first one, we invested some money. The second one kind of just broke even. But by the third one, there was a large enough fan base, the equity that we'd already invested printing the first 2 issues, a large enough print run so we could sort of bundle them with the third. All of a sudden now we were making money with everything that was going forward. And I am very fortunate to say after the 3rd issue of White Ash, 95% of every single book that I've put out on Kickstarter or done something else has been in the black from the beginning. So I'm very, and again, that comes down to the library and being able to sell back issues with things. So we make money.
Go. Pad your schedule. Pad your schedule. So if your thing is like, oh, it's going to be August, is really December, right? So think about that. And I use the term padded for mistakes, padded for miscellaneous, mishaps. All the other printer shipped and all the books and stuff, right? Well, pad that. Like if your book's supposed to be on the shelf or at the table at this date, you need to be 3 months ahead. So it can be your mistake, it can be their mistake, it can be shipping. It can be anything. It could be art's late or whatever. 3 months is always a safe bet.
Add 15 pages.
Okay. Well, if you have 15 pages, you might as well have 6 months.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you have to plan well. Because if you're down to the wick, the other thing is you're going to produce a crappy product too. Because you're going to rush. You're going to miss some things. So you don't want that. So you want to be prepared.
And I think on that note, since it's been mentioned several times about a print run gone wrong, is invest the extra time and money to get the physical proof, and don't think of it as an optional thing. I mean, there are a few occasions where I haven't been able to get a physical proof, and that's very scary. But if you can get a physical proof, I think you want to do it, because then the printer has sent you something, and if there's a mistake after that, then they have to fix it.
Even if you're familiar with the printer.
And I would say this stuff is also the most important when you start out.
Okay.
Because like as I've been doing this for long enough, at this point, if one of my books is a couple months late, all my people are like, it's coming.
Yeah.
You know, like they're used to getting, like they can see the long track record. He's delivered all these other things. This one's gonna be late. Okay, this, like the artist I'm working with on something just had a baby. That book's gonna be late. I don't know how late it's gonna be. It's gonna be late.
Right.
And everyone's gonna love it when it comes out, and they'll understand, okay, she's had a baby, it's gonna be late, but you've already sent me like 30 other books. This one's coming too.
That's building trust. That's why it's like 9 years.
Yeah.
Everybody there is a fan. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of White Ash. Don't tell Charlie. But
It's all the artists, you know, that's how he likes it.
yeah. Well, it's that. But
Connor
it's
is amazing.
He's
it's amazing. Like, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you're building trust with your audience. Here's the secret sauce, you guys. Everything that you love in fandom, the creator has built trust with you. That's why you continue to buy it. That's why you consume it. That's why you get the merchandise. That's why you recognize it. They have built trust in this brand. So you know when you see something come out, you know, that's Marvel or Disney or whoever, even if it's a single creator, if it's something that you already consumed, that you've already bought multiples of, if their name's on it or if the character that pops out you love is on, you're gonna buy it. That's what he's done. That's what we all do, right? My wife absolutely loves Jessica's book, right?
I love your wife. That's nice.
I mean, I'm the one who brought it to her.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He was
She was
he
sweet.
facilitated it.
Loves, so it's
I'm
like,
sure that's the point she remembers too. You brought me
Yes.
this, right?
well, that's true because she loves the game,
Oh, okay.
right? I don't know about that.
That's it.
But
Yeah, that's why you do multiple books. Find the right book for the right person.
That's the thing. So when you guys are going out there, that's what you need to do. Build trust with your audience and know your audience, right? Don't market to everybody. There's somebody for what you're trying to do.
All right, let me see. We got 15 minutes, so that's a decent amount of time. Who's got a question for us? That's Superman.
Do any of you guys have experience or opinions on like publishing digitally, like at first? That way you're avoiding print costs and stuff. And what ways would you do that? Either through like pre-existing websites like Book2.comsology, or like hosting your own thing, or anything like publishing digitally in order to build up a fan base before you're spending a large amount of money on it.
So
Just any opinions or experience.
the question is, has any of us done things digitally first, published first, so that we could build the fan base for printing, and how? So it looks like raise it.
I'm doing it now. So if you go to my website, studiosskye-tiger.com, we have all of our books on there digitally, so you can read it. That's part of building the trust that I was talking about before. And the fan base, people are coming and they're not getting the whole book at once. They're coming regularly, kind of like Disney. Like that's what they do. They feed you a little bit, and then you go out and you buy the taco bomb, right? If you read manga, it's the same thing. If you see, Midnight Tiger out there and it's a full book, you're gonna buy that book because every week you're getting a couple of pages. You're like, I can get the whole thing, and then that's basically how you build your audience. So it's no cost other than if you're paying an artist or whatever, and your website, post it on the website. Don't go to Tapas or
Yeah.
because they got some funky things going on in the fine print that you don't want to deal with. I know too many horror stories. Just build it, even if it's on Tumblr. Instagram comics are doing very well. There was a comic on Instagram that had gone for several years. They launched a Kickstarter, made $125,000 because of the fan base that it built. So that's what
I would say, like, to piggyback on that, I think it comes down to what you can afford. If you're the artist, 100% worth doing. If you're hiring an artist, it's hard to monetize digital in a way that you can have your return. So you need to be able to invest to sort of build the campaign. But I would also say, if you're going to do this, if you're going to go through the point, definitely have your own website, because then you have your own URL for the webcomic. And when that thing becomes a thing, you own, the infrastructure that it's on, because there's this whole term called like digital sharecropping. I don't know if you guys have heard that. It's a great term, because that's
I
what
personally don't like that shit.
Okay. but it's
Sounds
like,
close to some other kind
I'm
of
just
project.
gonna move over.
but it's like we don't own these sites.
Yeah.
That and so if something changes with the terms of service, like a lot of us at one point had a large Twitter profile, and built a lot of equity with Twitter. And it's like, and then something happened, and I don't know what it was. And a lot of us decided we didn't want to be there anymore, but in doing that, we gave up that audience that we had been building. Right now, Kickstarter's going through a little bit of a thing with Stripe, and Stripe's kind of cracking down and saying what kind of content can and can't be on the platform. So if that's your main revenue source, that might change for you. So it's when you're beholden to these other places, you're always in a dicey situation. So if you're on Tapas or Webtoons and they change their terms of service, and that's where you built your audience, you're in trouble.
And they do it all the time.
So having your own site that you pay, I don't know, $13 a month a year to host, that have that domain registered and figure out a way to host it this way. Cool. Who else has got a question for us? Sorry.
I just wanted to ask, I'm starting out making my own money. I had the first issue and everything. I had it posted digitally as well. I'm in high school, so time-wise, I got it done in about a month or so. I just wanted to ask, because I want to get into making some physical copies, because I know some people personally and some people like some people read my stuff and like it. Kind of where I start with that, like the Kickstarter and stuff, or similar things like that.
So you have the issue digitally up somewhere, and you've shared it with some people, and you want to make that single issue. But are you trying to get an audience? Do you have an audience already?
I have a small audience
Small
right now,
audience.
and I'm consistently posting on social media right now, TikTok and Instagram. And I just want to make a small batch of physical copies because of the people, that I'm getting that say, I would buy this.
Three quotes. Yeah, always get 3 quotes.
So
I was like,
there are
what?
different printers that you can go to that specialize in comic books.
Mhm.
And if you go to one of those printers, they'll send you templates, they'll work with you and sort of help you out. You're looking to do a digital print run, so it's going to be slightly more expensive per copy. But it's a good way to get started.
It's always cool to finally have it in your hands. So excited for you. That's awesome. Glad you got it done.
And so why don't we go through just for people here, what are some printers that you guys like to work with?
Look at you, Charlie.
I mostly for single issues right now am using Comics Well Spring. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if that's been working for me. I probably will. And I think at some point that's just who I use. So I'm going to recommend someone else because I haven't used other people.
I would say there's a company called Color Vision that you can get a quote from. There's Comic Impressions out of Florida that you can get a quote from. There's Mixum, which you can get a quote from. These are all places that I would say look for short run printing. And then you can also look at your local printers. Like sometimes they'll do something cheap for you. You're in school, depending on where you're in high school, sometimes they'll donate some cost to do that or give you a break because you're a high school student and they can write it off.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nixon, but one of the biggest things that's on my mind right now. You're a senior?
I'm just finishing my video.
Okay. First of all, I'm glad to see that you have a full beard. The reason why is I was that kid, and they wouldn't let me into school. They were like, "You're grown." I was like, "I'm 16." See? Well, come on, it's gonna get worse. No, so
I didn't have that problem.
we're brothers. 'Cause I had that problem. Yeah. I had a full beard, just like this young man. I had a full beard at 16, and they were like, "You can't come in here." So anyway, other than that, Mixum is great. So.
Printers I've used, I love Print Ninja. They have, for me, they have never missed. That's just jinx it.
Yeah.
But I don't work with print engine anymore because I do go higher volume, and I go through Tiger printing. They do every kind of proof possible, and I love it. They only added 2 weeks to my normal schedule with print engine, but I get 3 sets of proofs. The first set of proofs is a color proof, and then a pagination proof, and they're always going to be perfect because my files are clean. And then,
Not to tap yourself. on the
yeah.
back.
And then what's amazing too is after they do the full print run, they randomly grab 3 out of the stack and send those to me and say, hey, are these, this is a representation of your full batch. Before I send you the full batch, are you happy? If not, we will destroy these. And that's a lot of trees, first of all. But again, because my files are perfect.
Do they do smaller?
I believe Tiger Printing might have a 500 minimum.
Where are they out of though?
China.
I mean, like the other thing, after when you're printing overseas, there's a time cost for the
Yes.
books coming in, and there's actually a shipping cost.
Yes.
And I have actually found lately that you can actually print domestically cheaper
Mhm.
than overseas if you're doing floppies.
Oh no, I'm going perfect.
If you're going perfect bound, usually overseas. But like you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's that
Especially
shipping
the
charge
numbers.
was
That you're
really
printing.
high.
Because how many copies do you need?
We could all run our numbers right now.
I know, right?
Tell
Like-
them what the best deal is.
This is the other thing. When publishers get together,
We're
they're
like,
like,
what?
"What are your numbers? What are you paying?"
I'm doing anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 per issue or per book, and then let's say California was like full time.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't pull a number out of my head right now. I'm the kind of person who has to have it all in front of me to even talk
Yeah,
I have
about
them all
Right.
it.
memorized.
The accounting is my least. That's my worst business part. That's my worst hat.
We also talk about
Yeah.
beard care. That's
Yeah.
the other thing. So
And black beard obviously is a problem too. Yeah.
she's done, buddy.
Whoa. I am a lady of a certain age. I can try.
All right, we got 5 more minutes. Let's try to see if we do 1, maybe 2 more.
So once you have the comic book done, what have you found to be the best way to promote the comic? And if you have like a advertising budget?
Best way to promote a comic once you got it.
Running a Kickstarter.
That man.
I think that's the one thing I learned from Charlie is Kickstarter isn't just a place to get funded, it's a place to build an audience. Use it as a pre-order and build an audience because they come back and then other people hear about it. You follow other creators, then you find out what they're backing. So that's a place to build an audience. At least,
Also, Kickstarter doesn't want you to call it pre-order.
Well, you know.
they're charging tax. Maybe we can talk about that.
I
That's Charlie. Sorry.
I think if you're trying to do that first run, because you had asked that question too, and it ties into what you're doing. If you have any bit of following, a newsletter, people that are supporting you, and that first Kickstarter, if you can try to get them there that first day when you run your Kickstarter, and get some momentum. I do think that it is. I mean, I drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago because I watched all these guys, and there's nothing that's worked better than Kickstarter to get the name of your for me, or I think a lot of people I know, to get your comic one out there, but also to get funded at like that very like minimal level of being able to pay the print cost, be able to pay that part so you don't have to stress out. It's just really about setting realistic goals so that you don't, and even if you do fail your first Kickstarter, you could just relaunch, so don't worry about it too much.
Yeah.
Like, don't overthink that part. I mean, think about it, but don't overthink failure because that will stop you, and then it'll be 10 years from now and you'll have your comic on your laptop
You're rocking in the corner.
crying and laughing at the same time. Yeah, but I know, I'm just rambling you guys.
So you can see Superman over here.
Just so you know, I've had my beard since I was 16.
Ah,
Yes, Beard Brothers.
the triangle going on right
And I had to send my birth certificate to CIF because they thought I was playing football as like a grown man.
Just my high school girlfriend had to say, because she looked the right age.
Right?
It's like,
Yeah.
and I had to get past 2
It's
guards.
getting dangerous.
Yeah.
A little dangerous.
But that's not my question.
Oh,
Okay.
So I have been so I've been sitting on this like comic book idea for like the longest. I've been
Write it down.
I've already done.
There you
I just haven't actually done it yet. I'm just sitting there looking at it after I've written it down. But I'm going to. Would you guys suggest digital to be the first way to go or physical? Because I personally
prefer physical.
Most
And
people
so I
do.
want to go physical just because I personally prefer. But what would probably be the best?
Depends on your budget.
Yeah.
Depends on how much money you
See,
have.
I keep going back to that.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
I like
What
our
if
friend
you-
over here with the beard. He did a great thing of building an audience one page at a time. That's really smart. So that's a good solution. But I went straight for I'm going to make the hell out of this, print it, and build an audience right off the bat because I found a little extra cash in the side of my bed.
Okay, nice.
So-
That's what I'm looking for.
The
Okay,
cash
cool.
Don't tell the good one.
Okay.
The GUB.
Okay, that's great.
I produced 6 pages of the comic, went to Kickstarter, raised the funds for printing the rest of the 52 pages, and then took it on from there.
Genius.
So I got so my outlay was smaller. I made sure there was an audience for the book. There was an audience. They funded making it, and then that rolled into it.
Guys, same thing. My very first one, I think I had like 10 pages. It was colored, lettered, everything. That's what I showed, so they could read it. Like, if you want people to get into it, let them read it, and that's all you need. And then everything was good.
All right, I think we're on out of time at the moment. So there are table numbers over there. So if anybody wants to come visit us, ask us more questions. Is that it? Am I
Yeah,
right?
please, please.
You wanna talk about-
I'm there until about.
You can't find me
4:30.
here. I'm gone.
Oh, that's right, Jessica. You don't
That's
have the table.
I know next year I'll be at the
She's
table.
Hollywooing
I'm
this.
just, I'm fanning today, so I'm just walking around buying stuff. Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate you. Thank you all.